Independent MP Zali Steggall and Senator David Pocock have called for urgent and transformative action to turn Australia from a laggard to a leader in climate action. They co-hosted a special climate forum calling for government, policymakers, industry and business to accelerate the emissions reduction ambition to 75% by 2035. Well, joining me live is Independent MP Zali Steggall. Thank you so much for your time, Zali. How did it all go?
Look, it was a very stimulating discussion. Of course, from a scientist's point of view, the warnings are there. We are likely to tip over 1.5 degrees as early as 2027. So the world is, I think, mobilised and on notice that we need to do more. But we also heard from people like methane, who has set up pollination, Dr. Frank Yotso, for example, who was part of, leading the way from ANU. So looking at what are the levers we can do, we can pull, the government needs to pull. And one of the major ones that private industry needs is clear targets and pathways. So an ambitious 2035 target is incredibly important to set that tone for investment. And the call is for 75% emissions reduction by 2035.
Some other people perhaps in opposition are saying this is all too rushed. We need to transition in a slower way. What do you say to that?
Well, unfortunately, slower means we get to 2.5 or 3 degrees. So if the goal is 1.5 degrees, which means preserving our way of life, ensuring we have a stable climate, our economy, our economies and all of those aspects, food security are maintained, that's the goal. So we need to work backwards from there and look at what's needed. It's a whole of systems change. I don't disagree, it is challenging. We need to have much clearer pathway around decarbonising transport. It is our fastest growing emission source at the moment. So a clear roadmap on reducing emissions in transport. Agriculture, we need to tackle that. We need to tackle methane emissions in the mining sector, which is a major problem and a source of warming. Methane warms our atmosphere 80 times more than CO2 in the first 20 years. So if we're looking at temperature goals, we need to focus on that low-hanging fruit that can make such a big difference.
And coming out of the forum, are some states or territories performing better than others in the country?
Absolutely, and we're seeing ambition being set. So New South Wales has set ambition at 70% by 2035. Victoria has set ambition to 75 to 80% emissions by 2035, and they have announced the end of native forest logging. We are calling on New South Wales to do the same, Tasmania to do the same with urgency. Native forests are one of the best ways of sequestering carbon. So it really is a benefit. But what we need to talk about is that transition and how do we drive the investment. We know the US has passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which is accelerating investment and a real skill drain over to the US. We know the EU has responded to the US with a similar legislation, a Green Deal and a Critical Raw Minerals Act to ensure they develop their capacity. Germany, the UK, they are all progressing. So for Australia to be a leader, to host COP31 as the government would like to do, we need to step up to the plate.
All right, and there's still the debate of nuclear, places like Germany winding down their 3 remaining nuclear power plants, a lot of change across the world. We don't have nuclear plants here. We know that it's expensive. And what is the debate at the moment there?
Well, look, what was interesting is Parliamentary Friends of Climate Action also hosted a diplomatic roundtable with the US ambassador, the UK ambassador, the EU ambassador and the German ambassador. And what we heard from each of them was actually each country needs to play to its advantage. So a country like the UK does have nuclear in its mix because they don't have as much solar capacity as what we have. They have offshore wind and some nuclear. Other countries are looking at different mix. So the advice, the diplomatic advice was very much we all need to look to our best, our natural advantage of what our countries offer. So nuclear is incredibly difficult for Australia. We are behind and we don't have the workforce or capacity and it's very expensive. We do have incredible natural advantage. on solar wind and wind offshore and onshore. And I think that's where our opportunities are. But we do need to be open to all technologies to ensure we transition as fast as possible and as effectively and efficiently as possible.
How efficient were you, Zali, at your push-up challenge this week?
Yes, well, it's 20 push-ups a day for the next 23 days. We will be doing an update when we're next in Parliament, and I'm sure we can invite the Speaker out to have another go. I sort of think sometimes in question time, maybe instead of warnings, the Speaker should say to a few members, right, drop and give me 5 if you're going to behave badly.
There you go. This is what happened this week. You're doing very well there, and I believe 3,144 push-ups, and it's for Lifeline. So tell us about that.
It is. It's raising money and awareness for mental health and for Lifeline. So incredibly important. We do know exercise is a very positive way for people to engage, to get endorphins going, but it's a challenge to everyone to be a bit more active and a bit healthier while raising awareness to such an important issue. We know mental health is still a major problem. It really impacts so many people in our community, and we need to make sure everyone is taken care of in that way. So I encourage everyone, 20 push-ups a day, great way to get the arms toned for next summer, and you're doing it for a good cause.
Yeah, well said. It's certainly great. Maybe you've started something. Maybe we all need to do it at every office. Instead of a coffee, you do a few push-ups and off you go. What's coming up in Parliament?
We have quite a bit of legislation coming up. There is a push from the crossbench to put pressure on the government in relation to the HECS indexation. As you know, past students have now the HECS and help debt for university students in their careers is indexed to CPI, which has gone up to 7.1%, which is really problematic for many people. It means their debt is growing faster than they can pay it off. We have put proposals forward. For me, I think linking it to the RBA cash rate or CPI, whichever is the lowest, would be a more, I think, reasonable measure. The Minister has committed to further discussions and to looking at the model, so we will keep on putting pressure there.
Zali Steggall, thank you so much for your time as always, and keep going with that push-up challenge. I know you're a marathon runner, so I'm sure it's pretty easy for you. Thank you so much.